An internal fight among Democrats broke out this week over an upcoming scheduled appearance of a top Israeli leader on Capitol Hill. Israeli President Isaac Herzog is due to address a joint session of Congress Wednesday, drawing outcry from progressives over Israel's treatment of Palestinians. Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez already said she will not be attending. And over the weekend, Progressive Caucus Chairwoman Pramila Jayapal called Israel a, quote, racist state, a comment she later clarified in shifting her critique onto Netanyahu's conservative policies rather than Israel as a nation, saying, "I do not believe the idea of Israel as a nation is racist. I do, however, believe that Netanyahu's extreme right-wing government has engaged in discriminatory and outright racist policies, and that there are extreme racists driving that policy within the leadership of the current government."
In response, the senior Democrat on the House Foreign Affairs Committee, Congressman Gregory Meeks, said this on the matter: "I'm concerned about what's taking place in Israel. There's a way to seek and get information. You talk and hear and understand his viewpoints, and we're interested in hearing what he has to say." Democratic critics of Israel and Jewish lawmakers are in a tiff over Herzog's visit, a fight that writer for The New Republic, Prem Thacker, called stupid.
In an article for the outlet, Thacker pointed out how Democrats will turn against fellow Democrats who criticize Israel. He took to Twitter Monday, writing, "Ilhan Omar, Rashida Tlaib, and now Pramila Jayapal wrote about the Democratic Party's eagerness to attack their own at the behest of bad faith critics, and its comparatively stark lack of interest to advocate for human rights when it comes to Palestine." Yet that seems to be the prevailing view of the left, who've pointed out that many credited international rights organizations, the ones that make decisions about what is and is not apartheid, what is and is not genocide, have used those words to describe what's going on in Israel-Palestine. We are coming off about a week after the violence in Jenin, where several Palestinian teenagers were killed, 15 or so, I think, dead in total. There are a number of laws on the books that specifically treat Arab residents of Israel differently on paper under the law than Jewish Israeli residents. And that is definitionally what we're talking about. Now, this wordsmithing where people are saying, well, it's anti-Semitic to call a state that treats its own citizens differently on the basis of their ethnic and religion origin. It seems to me that that's splitting hairs and part of a broader effort to make any criticism of Israel completely not allowed in the context of politics. And it is really notable how coordinated the response has been from Democrats, who were largely silent about what was going on in Jenin, who were largely silent about any number of abuses that happen, whether or not they are with respect to what's happening in Israel or domestically, but who speak in one very clear voice whenever one of the very small number of progressives in the House who regularly advocate for the rights of Palestinians have the audacity to do exactly that.
Sure. I mean, it sounds like it was, she even walked back the comments or the way she said it.
Well, there was a lot of pressure to do
that
so.
Exact line of argument you just outlined there. But of course, our members of Congress should feel free to criticize human rights abuses in other governments. I don't approve of a lot of things the Israeli government does. I certainly don't approve in sending them tons of U.S. taxpayer dollars, nor do I, frankly, approve of sending U.S. taxpayer dollars to any foreign country. Some Republicans actually take that position as well, that U.S. foreign aid, if given at all, maybe should be contingent on them treating their citizens with and the people who inhabit the areas who don't get the full rights of citizens.
Who don't get the full rights of citizens is a big caveat. Yes, but
rather than have some kind of worse diplomatic fighting with war of words, I would actually change the policy. I would not dole out money to other countries.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think that a point about foreign funding, foreign aid is an important one, but remember, this is coming up because there is a specific far-right conservative Israeli leader that's coming to speak before Congress that these members are objecting to. So again, you have to do some mental cartwheels to know that these Congress members are responding to a specific I don't know if they would characterize him specifically as racist, but definitely deeply conservative, far-right, and supportive of discriminatory policies in Israel. This person is coming to speak before Congress, and these Congress members are saying, this is a problem. Is there going to be any outrage, given what we say that we stand for in America, having this person come and speak to us uncritically when we know that there are these human rights abuses happening in his own country? In that context, to come together as a centrist democratic community to condemn the people pointing out the human rights right abuse guy, instead of having that same energy to focus on the person who provoked this entire conversation.
Well, I don't know that it's wrong, though, to have a foreign dignitary speak in Congress or something.
No, the question isn't whether or not he should be censored or that it's wrong or whether or not he should be. I mean, I'm sure some people don't want him to speak at all. But what the Congress members.
Some people didn't want the president of Iran to come speak at Columbia when that happened.
Sure, but this, I mean, what I believe Pramila Jayapal and Ilhan Omar and Rashida Tlaib are saying is that they weren't planning to attend in protest of this man and the Israeli government's actions. That is their right to exercise their
well, no one's arguing that it's
rights
not.
of assembly. So this isn't a censorship question. This is they are making a protest statement, and the protest statement is being completely subsumed by most members of the American government who would prefer to demonstrate a show of force against the handful of Muslim American electeds and people who are not Muslim American but who just generally want to advocate for the rights of Palestinians. They have more energy to condemn them than they do the person who is arguably condemnatory in the first place. And I'm not overstating this. There's a House resolution to vote today on declaring that the United States will always be a staunch partner and supporter of Israel, and that Israel is not a racist or apartheid state. Well, Israel not being an apartheid state is a statement that flies in the face of overwhelming international consensus. And you have to start asking the question about politically why it is that there's so much appetite for passing a resolution to deny international consensus and, frankly, what is obvious to any observer on the ground, and what it means for our foreign policy decision that we are going to these kinds of lengths to protect this ally over the interest of Palestinians, what that means in terms of our credibility across the world, and what that means in terms of the fate of American electeds who do try periodically to speak freely and stand up for the rights of people abroad that they want, but who are faced with overwhelming pushback from these super PACs like AIPAC, these advocacy groups that pour millions of dollars into campaigns to get them unseated, not because they think that they are not going to reflect the interests of the people in their various constituents, but because specifically fidelity to a very narrow band of foreign policy that treats the Israeli government's behaviors, no matter what they are, as an extension of U.S. policy is a condition of being in the American government. And is that something that we are going to agree as a problem here?
Yeah, I mean, I'm fundamentally not really disagreeing with you. I think she can say whatever she wants, and I don't, support a foreign policy of just turning a blind eye and endlessly funding people to do. I think that's a totally failed approach. It's a neoconservative approach. I don't, even from a conservative or Republican standpoint, it's not what, the more non-interventionist and libertarian branches of the party want. I don't think it's really I don't think conservative voters, primary voters, are like super invested in maintaining financial support to Israel or, frankly, any other country. They want the focus here at home on the U.S. So, this is as you point out, this is a special interest issue for a certain constituency.
Let me correct myself also. It was at least 12 Palestinians, this is from a CNN report, that were killed in the largest scale military operation in the occupied West Bank city of Jenin in decades, leaving widespread destruction across the city's refugee camp. This is an event that happened just earlier this month, about a week ago. And that is not being condemned in resolutions in the House.
I think our political leaders should meet with the leaders of countries that are engaged in bad. They should meet with Putin's, with Xi Jinping's, with everyone, because that's how diplomacy should work. They should work toward having better treatment of everybody everywhere. And if you have a militaristic, I can never meet with anyone who's done anything wrong.
Absolutely.
People would have to treat U.S. officials that same way.
You have to meet with people to impose accountability. The question is whether or not that's what's going to happen at these sorts of meetings. And given the eagerness with which American electeds, you have people like Hakeem Jeffries saying that Israel is the sixth borough of New York. Interestingly, a lot of Black New York politicians are the ones that were most forceful coming out with statements that were condemning Ilhan Omar and AOC and these progressives. It seems to be an interesting use of identity politics, that the real attack dogs here are the Hakeem Jeffries, the Gregory Meeks, the Richie Torreses of the world, who are this block of electeds who are always going to be the first ones out to accuse any progressives who advocate for Palestinian rights of anti-Semitism. It's a pattern that's emerging, and I'm sure we'll continue to follow this story and what happens with this resolution later today. More Rising after this.